그랬잖아. 제가 위我东北人比少啊，你那的成这个东北这个人比东北人比少了，少了人比东北你蛮行吧？你没一些的，你早晚的有嘛嘞？少了的东北人也不热。
So in this regard, the nature of the mind itself is both empty and clear. These are non-dual, these are not separable. The mind is the non-dual union of wisdom on the one hand and clarity on the other. Thus we cultivate this union of clarity and emptiness.
Tini nyam se lang na, te la kwam song na, tini te la lang yang te le, ye yang te le, lang yang te le, di sa na tini ye se gu ye te le ba, ye lam te yo de ma bo xie ke yo de, se gu ye de ko yun di te le, ngo tong ma lang ji sa ba le, di ngang na ne tini drupa lam mi sang je lam na sing song na, o le, sang je sa dru gu na, lam te ga rang re, lam yi yo ma re, then sang ye he but date young pena the sang then sem nisen the hipa tamti sang ne sang then rasa la higdo yore nisen me be hite the ding over on the napkata napkeka chap the pena sang ye the chibo menwa Zaba may be sent in Namkata, Namkata be Chiborva. San Gay Chibaton de Bay, upon somewhat uncovered there.
So the text reads, when there is neither hope nor doubt, the fruition is made manifest. This is to say that when we habituate ourselves, the non-dual union of clarity and emptiness, then within that, the ground, the path, and the fruition are attained. Thus, we give rise to all of the enlightened qualities. It is said that the mind is naturally clear and empty. Apart from this, there is no additional path to cultivate. The fruition of this is said to be unsurpassable enlightenment. And so, when we speak of Buddhahood, we use the Tibetan term Sangye. Sang, the first syllable, refers to purification. That is, specifically the purification of all dualistic view. From within that, non-dual wisdom spontaneously arises and pervades the expanse of space. The second syllable, ye, refers to the vastness of that all-pervasive, expansive quality. And so the attainment of enlightenment is just this, the purification of dualistic view, which then yields the expansive enlightened qualities that pervade all of space.
Benadi Sanje the Dada Kogona Simjinga don't take Shigor. Sanje the Simjin Cheparte Shep some of Tangla Sanje Chipati. Yet the Simjin number Sanje don't also Simjin Tamje, same with yet the Sanje Jure. The jump to Chibota, the Sanje, the jump to Chibota. Same with each other. Tela Simji Chibata Pena, Chagrom Tava Chad, Chagrom Kariki Chad from the dinner Pena, Chewing Chagrom de Namchi Chamuratini, then Chewing Chagrom Chad, Simji, same the Pena, Dandin, the Balatin, same with the Balatin, or the bala, the barzon, tell he, let it penco, simply chardy or the penna. I said the body checks on penna, Sangil tiny or it, the bottom checks on same corner, Nakata, just how it. All this and the carry. The bottom is checked with Jimmy Terry. Sanjay the same thing you check out the cat and charum tower corner. Then you like an arms and just the pinnacle. Charum should tap the something J. And be not it. Thomas something in arms and with Jimmy Terry.
So if we want to understand the qualities of Buddhahood, we must also understand sentient beings. All beings have the Buddha nature from the very beginning. That Buddha nature is like water. It is like the vast ocean. The only difference between sentient beings and the enlightened ones is that this water of Buddha nature in the minds of the Buddhas remains free-flowing, whereas the Buddha nature in the minds of sentient beings is like a frozen block of ice. So when this innate water of Buddha nature meets with the conditions of cold weather, the water freezes into ice. This is what happens when we give rise to self-clinging in our mind streams. And we perceive phenomena as real. And on the basis of that perception, we fixate on them. So this process of self-clinging, eventually leading to fixation, is like the condition of cold weather. When fixation is overthrown, we recognize the space-like expanse of mind. That is to say, all of the mind's qualities just merge with the expanse of the sky. And then it's easy to recognize the Buddha nature. But until we have that experience, we need to give rise again and again to loving kindness and compassion. For this is the supreme method to melt this frozen block of ice and experience the Buddha nature like free-flowing water.
Gomjo me be sem, gomi gombe lami sancho top de sem tomba rama be jakpari kin kangyo gomjo me ba de gomsona teni rama me be sancho te top ko yore de tomna zungzi ko de tawe japo yin ta zongwa yolo de ba sem nam to gang cha de manjina zongwa yolo nam to de sem ko manjin ba ya na Rancha Rolo, you deep on the Tavijapo, yes. Oh, send the Namtoga Malera, Tavijapo, yes. Tela, you want me a Gombijapo, yes. Oh, Namtoga Malay, Jetty, you want me for tree. Some Tishi upon the Maya, but they did it. Tishi upon the Namtoka and Ziggy or Mali, Namtoga send the hook. Charum Shorum Repena, or you want me a Gombijapo, yes.
So the text reads, when non-meditation is habituated, unsurpassable awakening is attained. Here then, there's nothing at all that needs to be cultivated or meditated on. We simply allow whatever manifests to manifest. we allow the mind to abide in natural ease, this mind is untainted by conceptual thoughts. Then there's no fixation on anything that arises in the mind. Thus, thoughts are seen to be self-arising and self-liberated. This is the king of views. The text reads, "Transcendence of all subject and object duality is the king of views. When there is no distraction, that is the king of meditations." And so, when we remain in a state of mindful awareness, free of distraction, it is as though the ice of this frozen Buddha nature begins to melt, and we can engage the practice that is the king of meditations.
Sabtor mena jupe japo yi, redo mena drevo ngone yorso.
The text continues, "When there is no deliberate effort, that is the king of action. When there is neither hope nor doubt, the fruition is made manifest."
Sabtor me pa de pena, jiti kago sawa kanya meje pa mare. Sengutere, upota, demban jine, di dupo, di patum dupo pena sa sempe, de la. Demban jine dupo yome, kangne. Ramzong, Rashardira, Kamzong di chode. Jiti kago tamchi yisen to bade lekachena. Drumna de Madumna de Drumna Madu, Sengu Tony Chibachene, Julam Tamchira. Sengu redo me pachinatini, redo me patin devana chore yeso. Saptor mena jubi Japan chode. Sengu redo chibo ingen dedo with the Madu, Tamadu, some lochi or a only. Terima, Musulunga, Sawati, Simchi could not to buy. Rangajura, Sanya, Sajo Tojo, Tata, Julam, Chekura, Julam Tangila. Same with the red dog and the Bachibo Chene.
When there is no deliberate effort, that is the king of action. So then, we have completely abandoned this fixation on worldly phenomena as being real. Whatever arises, whatever manifests, is naturally arising and naturally appearing. We don't need to conceive of phenomena as real or inherently existent. We don't need to follow after them. We simply allow them to rest in their own natural state. Then within that, the text continues, there is within that there is neither hope nor doubt, and the fruition is made manifest. And so within this context, if our activities are accomplished, it is fine. If they're not accomplished, it is also fine. We remain free in our hearts from the extremes of expectation on the one hand and doubt on the other hand. This is really the best of all fruitions. Of course, we continue to abide in this world. We continue to engage our body and speech in activities and various types of conduct. But from the side of the mind, we've already abandoned. In this way, we can engage in the activities that are the king of all fruitions.
Mm. 꾸이 재미 박차 르요 상 냠지면서 재미 있는 거죠.
The uncreated ground of all is clear of the obscuring veil of propensities. Do not engage in meditation and post-meditation, but rest in the unborn essence.
대단히 암살랑나 sem 꾸이제들 나빠다 때라 박차가 좀 마음 빠져 용거를 했지. 남도 박차대 차도요만 남도 나서 돈도거래. 제가 제는 냠자지 지톱니에요 말이지. 냠자가 갑다 지톱고 셈이야. 뜻바래 저 빼놓고. 어래. 박차가 좀 요면은 셈고 냠자가 지톱니 시켜요 요 말이지. 냠지 냠지면서 김이 좀 벌써.
So if you practice in this way, thoughts are liberated on arising. Thus, no karmic propensities are established. In this context, then, there is no such thing as a separation between meditation and post-meditation. The continuity of mind remains the same, whether we are engaged in the meditation session or whether we're engaged in post-meditation activities. Thus, meditation and post-meditation are non-dual, they are inseparable. Likewise, if no karmic propensities are being created, we can't speak of a separation between meditation and post-meditation. In this way, we rest or remain in the unborn essence.
재미있어도 다보 샘들 강리 지용은 말이. 너니 종 너니 지제 지사지 홍로 말이. 받은 갖고 매 받. 저 미야로 줘 말이. 타만 내봐 매 받. 대세문대로 제가 내서 들어와서 제 마고는 김이 집어들어 갖고 말이. 어래. 다보 지가 매 받. 받은 갖고 매 받. 타만 내봐 매 받. 샘들 가도 하고 말이. 어래. 내봐 매봐 디선도 나가다 와서 띵앙로 딱 벌더지 재미있는 걸 줘서
So when we speak of the mind itself, it is non-arisen, it has no origin, it is said to be unborn. Likewise, it is without any end or without cessation. Likewise, it cannot be said to abide or to remain. And so, in the beginning, there is no arising, in the middle, there is no abiding, and in the end, there is no cessation. This non-abiding mind, how do we know that the mind is non-abiding? If we look for the dwelling place of the mind, we cannot find it. We cannot locate where the mind is. And so we say it is non-abiding. Thus, as we engage in the meditation on Mahamudra, we should remain in this essence that is beyond arising, abiding, and cessation.
나와 라나 로이 주는 세 남타용으로 따위자 보 줘서 로이 주는 세 집안에 변나 남도 강샤때 그런 데바트 세노 나 등하 이제 세문대로 뭐지 남도 강샤를 진짜로 싸고 땅에 되네 레사가 그래 다다 만지나 나는 데바트 세 남도 강샤를 때 되네 만지도 세 좀 봐
The text continues, in the self-display of appearances, your intellectual faculties are exhausted. So, in this context, whatever thoughts arise, the fixation on those thoughts is what is exhausted. If we have fixation to thought, then we accumulate karma, and on the basis of that, propensities are established. If, on the other hand, we remain free of fixation on arising thoughts, no karma is accumulated, and there is no obscuring factor in the mind. Thus, it is not that the thoughts are exhausted so much as it is the fixation on the thoughts are exhausted.
Mamta yongru tawa japoncho, mami tengyang gomba japoncho, salmi rang ne juba japoncho so. Oh, what about the say so na? Did it same cola? Tam there, mother, the yomare, now call a tawi me by gender. Get tawa japote. Mami tengyang gomba japoncho so na. Oh, gom the thing that I took from the thing that one yomare, now call a 복야 나고 때가 톡톡하고 몸에 땡 때리대요 말해 몸이 땡 양지나 배나 땡 톡사매 배래 공부 초래 지금이 랑게 루아가 사와 탐지 배나고 생게 레도요 말해 사와 강난 점난 저래 마도는 마도래 덕티서 가와다 마서 마티서 동이 요 말고 때는 좀아타고 줘봐줘 사미 랑네 쭈빠 잡고 초. 다 세부도는 사와요 말해. 그래. 누가 난 로요. 벤나 자와 탐시 지바나. 나비는 거라 잘 펴고 돈을 거고 있어. 삼바다 닝지가 자와 메베가네. 지지피를 가나 펴고지 펴고 거. 여기는 내려가 말이. 문에서 거기 생우 삼고 가리래가 제일 말고. 맞을 때는 딱 되더니 추시 이거 사와래 펴고 요래. 추시 이게 사와래를 벽고 열어라. 추지는 빼나 추지 사와 다시 종지는 시가 빼나 다 벽가 된다라 자 이기도 듣고 열어야 되는 거 가야 듣고 요면 문에 되는 거 빼나 세부터는 인피를 놓다 말하다가 누가 이런 교랑 탐지 되더라 이 사미랑네 주변 잡고 줘대 세무들이 사람이 왔대.
The text continues. The complete release of limits is the supreme king of views. Boundless, deep, and vast is the supreme king of meditations. Boundlessness, deep and vast, is the supreme king of meditations. Self-abiding freedom from action is the supreme king of conduct. So when our fixation on arising thoughts has been exhausted, we recognize that the mind is without any boundary or limitation. Likewise, it is without any center. This is the supreme king of views. The text continues. Boundlessness, deep and vast, is the supreme king of meditations. So within this view that has no limitation, no physical limitation, one realizes the boundlessness that is like space. It is vast and profound. Within this spaciousness and vastness, of course, one continues to engage body and speech in activities, but from the perspective of mind, there is no longer any hope or expectation, nor is there any doubt. If our activities are accomplished, then that is fine. There is no excessive rejoicing in that. If our activities are not accomplished, that is also fine. There is no great suffering in that, because the mind is remaining free of activity. So although the body and speech continue to be engaged in activities, the mind is free. This is really the supreme king of conduct. For example, we can look at His Holiness the Dalai Lama. He travels throughout the world, engaging body and speech in a vast number of spiritual and secular activities for the benefit of all beings. And he does this out of loving kindness and compassion. But with regard to his mind, there is no activity at all. He has realized a state free from action. So even though he engages body and speech in these innumerable activities, there's no wavering at all in the mind. There's no attachment or hope or doubt in the mind. In this way, then, he is an example of someone who has realized this line: self-abiding freedom from action is the supreme king of conduct.
Rimi Ranang, Devi Choi also, Rimi Rangnea, the Ranang, the Ido. Kang, you know, Yabari, Rimi Rangne, the Penasata, also the same Salmasarga, reading Pena, Salvacap, Masarvacap, young man was what a younger mind of parts up there, Temiva. Mind, but you charge the same later, Rimi Ranang. David Choi, you know, David Japai, yes.
The text continues, to abide in personal experience, free from hope, is the supreme king of fruitions.
Ranang did Ranang did Rang Mawa, the Sandap Meva, then under Cray. Rang Mawa, the Sawas and Daba, all the Sarmasaki on Meva. Made in on Rimi, but Rang a simple tinky, the Judah Nate in a chocolate. The tomb, Nando, Japan, Nang Name, don't put it Japan as the door. That country, Timba, you charge a Rang tinky, the Timbo, never cup, my neighbor cup. Tataman was so simple. Decision, oh, Tatanga Yang so that I knew but not so. Jason Ransong, Tanga Yang so, or Tatanga Yang married. Or Teta Rimia, Shadow remains in a banner. Decision chart nails on number Sama, Shopatinico. Sama take on Maliba, or the Sheldo. How
Actually, the text here, there are a couple of variant readings. So, the first reading, Reme Rangnang, is self-appearance, free from hope, is the supreme king of fruitions. So let's take the commentary on that first reading. If we are talking about self-appearance free from hope, this really, okay, how about self-clarity free from hope? What we're talking about here is the awareness of whether the mind is abiding in clarity or not, whether the mind has fallen under the power of distraction or not. And so we need to maintain this kind of mindful awareness that knows and perceives whether the mind is distracted or undistracted. The second possible reading is Reme Rangne. And this is self-abiding, free from hope, is the supreme king of fruitions. And the commentary on that would be, if we are abiding in a ceaseless continuity of non-distracted mindful awareness, then this is the king of fruitions. In either case, whichever reading we take, their meaning is pretty much the same. We abide in unobscured, clear appearance. And within that, we experience the king of fruitions. when we have a ceaseless continuity of moments of mindful awareness, one after the next, then there is no longer the thought, oh, now I've become distracted from the meditation, I need to return to my focus. Rather, as soon as thoughts arise, they are liberated. This is what is meant by liberation on arising. All thoughts are naturally and spontaneously liberated and overthrown through the power of mindfulness.
다 세분에 놓게 답시 레이나요. 냠선리 버깝니 다 송고요래. 레 당부까지 셈 냠네 제발라. 레는 당부 쪼롱 쳐당자. 발 대강에 토만 냠선리 로제가 나와 가시에다 드리나 가시에는 로 가시에는 것들이 배 셈을 까고 라다르금 밥쳐당이지. 드리 말해. 따로 찌롱미 봐 나도 오르고 잡고 마보 드리지. 제일 망한 마직은 냠선나 바르 초 강가 달진 바. 드리세를 흐르르 이족전하게 초 강가하게 차버려. 타마 생면대로 시송나 타마 죽기 마음 tre반다. 쳐서마 잡지는 지속처럼 때문에 들이 판로와도 처럼 매와. 들이 용어를 해서.
So what has been described up to this point is the natural state of the mind. But experientially, when we engage in the practice, it is as follows. The text reads, "To a beginner, mind is like water falling from a cliff. In the middle, it flows gently like the river Ganges. At the end, it is like the confluence of streams, like the meeting of mother and child." So, in the first year or the first months of engaging meditation, a beginner experiences the mind like a powerful and ceaseless flow of thoughts. It is really like a rushing waterfall with countless thoughts coming one after the next in a seemingly endless string. Then, after having practiced for some time, the mind becomes more open and relaxed, and although thoughts continue to arise, they flow on gently like the river Ganges. And then, in the end, when the natural state has been recognized, one abides in a state in which there is neither coming nor going. This in the text is referred to as being like the confluence of streams, like the meeting of mother and child.
내 담보 봐도 남도 그거 쫑네 체들라 잡아당 심바 치와래 제 탐지게 로도 나빠 이자다 어래 레지브리라 하고 버래 대신아 되니 레지브리 신아 코와는 게 좀 동해된 통을 되니 대라 탈도 로지오래 대라 탈고는 다 세구대로 통고래 코바를 로동을 뒤 센트에다 공고요래 락바지 되다 가지고 로도 나바지는 냠슬린 거래.
So in the beginning, the great fault of our practice is attachment and fixation. For this reason, as beginners especially, we cultivate contemplation on the four thoughts that turn the mind to the Dharma. And particularly we focus on the workings of karma, cause and effect. For if we understand that, then we truly want to liberate ourselves, or we truly want to experience liberation from the sufferings of samsara. In this way, our minds turn away from ordinary worldly phenomena. And having done so, we have a bit of freedom and leisure in the mind, and that leisure creates the space in which we can actually engage authentic practice.
내가 가장에 소장 가서 냠슬리노 시요는 생냠슬리노 강례에 되나 레다 보고 조롱 쳐단다고 탐지게 랑 later new mobile telephone, Huang told me, Nagi Yongo, telling you, Sotarga, Gabra, legendary Yansali. Bobby talk about talking about the same day as a low town, he got me. Sancho symbol on the safety target, Sambat and think it's same about Gomna. Good look, Sancho symbol was in Yansali. Tamachana Mao Chepa Gami, or that's Hajachibu, Mang Jang, the Chena. The Sajachibu Mang Gombagami, don't you have to give out your name, Gongo Yore.
No.
Then you have to give out your name. Yansui Godoa, or Tomata, Lako, Dovana, so some Jordan. They said that they were top from the Nubacami. The new Nagan, Tivan, don't like a call or sing up my own work, your long Tamchida. Tamchi, young Chopa. Young Tamchi, Yamsali Chopa. The Madonna Chopa, to Madonna Chopa, Jet of Drumna, Jet of Yapu, your head.
Yesterday I spoke a little bit about the 3 vow systems. And actually these 3 statements of Tilopa about the stages of meditation are parallel to those 3 systems. For example, Tilopa says that to a beginner, mind is like water falling from a cliff. So when we are engaged in the practices of the individual liberation vow system, we really focus on the harm caused by karma and negative emotions. We seek to separate ourselves from those, to abandon those gross negativities. And so this is a beginner's practice when we are experiencing this constant flow of conceptual thoughts, one after the next, like a powerful waterfall. Then we need to engage the activities to separate ourselves from those gross arisings. But after we've stabilized that, and the mind opens up and becomes more relaxed, then, as Tilopa says, in the middle it flows gently like the river Ganges. At this stage, then, we can engage our minds in limitless loving kindness and compassion for all sentient beings without exception. This is in accord, then, with the Bodhisattva vow system. Finally, at the end, Tilopa says, it is like the confluence of streams, like the meeting of mother and child. At this stage, then, we abandon, or we set aside, the virtuous accumulations of body and speech. We no longer engage in the accumulation of mantra recitations or the turning of prayer wheels or any of these other virtuous practices, and we abide in Mahamudra alone. And then this is in accord with the samayas of secret mantra. And then finally, once this has become completely stabilized and integrated, it is fine for us then to return to virtuous activities. Then we're able to engage any kind of spiritual practice that we choose without wavering from that essential basic nature.
나서나다 파르스바 나 너바 내누라서 취남다 라는 용도 저번 타이 양 오이살 사자 전부 통문열 손단 딜이 용도 특바가 빼래 시바라 되네 로이 시바라 되네 사자 전부 통통 좀 말해서 시바 특을 뛰네 답변 특을 왜 딱지 땅에 다티 곡치모를 라는 용도 저번 타도 좀 타는 바 삼지게 빼는 다라 쇼가 세고 냠들랑이랑 그 랑랑 또 오고 마도도 저거 책이 또 많이 자와를 느껴요 말에 책을 뛰네 다다 통통 말이야 아 고소 책了的人同学嘛来着，用他的那책是吧？那说的，看是那张牌儿是吧？那对吧？电脑那说去那么大，然后就这不太讲，这差点怎么他们就是，懂得的책了的人写罢了的人，老就把个台湾的同学嘛来说，对吧？差点怎么冲突就嘛来说。
The text continues, and here I should just note that I'm no longer using my translation. This is drawn from Keith Dowman's translation, I believe. And if it's not Dowman's, then it's the... what's the one that you guys have? Yeah. So it's one of those two, I don't remember. The clear light of Mahamudra cannot be revealed by the canonical scriptures or metaphysical treatises of the Mantravada, the Paramitas, or the Tripitaka. The clear light is veiled by concepts and ideals. Now, this verse then refers to the following. If through the power of our intellect we investigate the meaning of the scriptures and we delve into the meaning of all of the words and so forth, and we study the various tenet systems and philosophical schools and their various theories and belief systems, Mahamudra will never be recognized on the basis of these alone. We cannot experience Mahamudra through any kind of mental activity. The ultimate view can only be realized through direct personal experience that comes through practice. Thus the text says, the clear light is veiled or obscured by concepts and ideals. So in this regard, Lord Jigten Sumgun said, if we fixate on our particular system's view, then that fixation itself obscures the mind. For example, if I think I'm a practitioner of Mahamudra, or this is the view of Mahamudra, then together with those thoughts comes fixation and clinging. And the fixation itself is the fault. The fixation itself separates us from that view. So whether we're speaking of Mahamudra or Dzogchen or the Great Middle Way, still, all of these are mere labels. If we fixate on the label or on the concept, that fixation itself obscures the view. The actual Mahamudra or Dzogchen or Great Middle Way is the direct experience of this mind that is totally free from fixation and like the expanse of the sky. So we must be aware of the obscuring quality of the mind that fixates on beliefs and systems and views, and abandon that completely.
Yila mzi shedu kuntang tar ramzong rangshe choy pataraso. Ta saja chibi tongo bala. 타자집에 동거 말 일은 시도 거다 공고 some debata 팔로네 세우라와 저와 공고 일은 공고서 로인 debata 당 시도 거다 다들 사지에 살아래와 매 소소로 또 봐요 매 레도 강염매가 너는 레도 매가 셈 오늘 ramzong rangchi choy padada sona ti gangni ko namto chara gang sharona te ko rangsa ya ya la te la sangbu yong ti na ma tse ne bi tu na ma tse la ko rangsa ya ya la choy jamsong chi de le mo shu le yo le chung chung ma balap mai ba le ta bu ko balap da wa gom la gong na ta 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 sa le 너무 충충 많이 잘 좋은 거래. 당대 봐. 사미로래. 배때는 게 남도 차 충충 라사라사를 셔도래. 대양 만지는 봐야 하잖아. 라고 나게 최에 받아다서.
네,
받아지 뭐. 너무 충충. 저 야잖아. 발라와 많이 봐. 너무 충충. 남도 차봐. 남도 차봐. 철로래. 코라사를 야잖아.
So the text continues, with the cessation of mental activity, one is free of any wish. When the swell of the ocean is at one with its peaceful depths, the self-arising, self-pacifying ocean waves are no different than the ocean's depth. Okay. Rinpoche's commentary, just as a translator's comment here, his commentary is diverging from the translation. So we'll do the best that we can here. If we want to practice Mahamudra, first we need to abandon fixation, or the fixated thought, I want to meditate on the nature of mind. If we can release that concept, then we are said to be free of hope. For this reason, the text says, with the cessation of mental activity, one is free of any wish. So we don't have any wish or hope to realize the nature of mind. When there's freedom from hope, then there's also the other side of it, which is freedom from doubt. Doubt, for example, that we will not realize it. And thus, we just simply leave the mind in its natural state. Whatever arises is left in its left to itself, left to its natural state. And then within that, all of the gross and subtle thoughts are liberated. This is what occurs when we abide in a continuity of the natural state of the mind. As a beginner, it seems like there are so many thoughts. It's like if the mind is like the ocean, then all of these thoughts are like huge crashing waves. But then as the meditation becomes more stabilized, the thoughts become more subtle. And here the translation of the text is referring to the peaceful depths of the ocean. But Rinpoche's translation of this term would be, or his interpretation of this term is more like, if you just look at the placid surface of a lake, sometimes when the wind blows, there will be just a slight rise and fall on that surface. And this is really what the text is referring to. So once the meditation has been habituated, we're no longer dealing with these crashing waves of gross negative emotions, but rather with the just very subtle arisings that are like these slight variations on the surface of a lake. In any case, through the power of the mindful awareness in the practice, all of the concepts, gross and subtle, are spontaneously liberated.
Shindu Songwe Sarmam Tong Rep Topo Song Dong Tam Chek Dong Ne Yang Song Tadi Chek Karchi Shu Deri Shindu Songwe Sarmam Tong Rep Song Didin Da Tami Sammo Tangore Tong Kangi Na Ta Gomri Jali Kano Tangi Simon Tongo 좀 찍고들은 뇌바닥에 잡아서 열에 당에 생고 가진 통 당에 통고 뭐도 상 자대 해도 담제 되게 담제래 뒤감 이제 샘찍 마도 요 말에 되나 가리 문제 오 통고 삼이 로 대래 대한 나도 어제 통고 삼 나도 어래 내가 랑 레에 되고 변은 나 통고 samna toyu yin yo ma re pe na zabren ko de nga de le nga ke nga ta to ju o nga re sam cha de ti khorang re sam cha tong cha la ta de de ba de shek do re o tong go sam ju tong ki khorang re de tong go sam ki da rang re sa ti dang de ya ya ko shek cha de tong sang ro re ta ki la yo ma re 대 매번 마성은 통고 담지 제담 성나더니 다운 통유어 마 셰도 통여 설마 통접성 디도 셈나다 하는 게 통고 상이 로제다다 창말 열에 딩월을 격대나 고식도 해야 돼.
The text continues, when desire arises, luminosity is obscured and not seen. By harboring rigid precepts, the true samaya is impaired. Now these two lines are of utmost importance. Everyone here should think about the meaning of these lines. We all think, I want to see the nature of the mind. When will I recognize mind's nature? Is this Mahamudra or is it not? Is this authentic experience or not? We all give rise to these concepts from time to time. But the truth is, there is only one mind. And so the thinker of the thought, I want to see mind's nature, is just that mind itself. It's like if I think, I want to see myself, there's no seeing beyond the, there's no seeing beyond the thinker of the thought, I want to see myself. I am me. And so when I give rise to this fixated wish to realize the nature of mind, I need to look right at the face of that. I need to see the thinker of that thought. I need to look at the face of that thought. And in that moment of direct looking, the thought itself is overthrown. The fixation itself is rendered powerless. To whatever degree we hold on to this notion, I need to realize the nature of mind, we will experience a corresponding obscuration of the nature of mind. Thus the text reads, when desire arises, luminosity is obscured and not seen. Right. And so we all give rise to this fixated desire to recognize the ultimate nature. In the moment that you have that, look at the face of that, and it will be overthrown.
karma chikla tigana ta. Tongo san di lo tigana ta. Then samjo.
So for a single minute, look at that. Look at the mind that says, I want to see this. And then after that, we'll take a brief break.
Thank you. I am who?
separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion.
Page 12.
So there's still a little bit more to be covered at the end of this text. Rinpoche will, however, he assures you, devote time for the question and answer session. And so if you should have questions, please write them down and bring them forward at the break or whenever else, and he will address them at the end of the session.
Daughter pay Karchibo or Kangina. Junda, the similar Shadi did me, that's a tongue bar over it. Tell a lint about the same Savo degree. He is from the similar Manga de Toki or Mari, the course on the land, try to read the data about it. Tata, seen the deputy, I saw them young or it. Totally Hajam Kichimore.
It's my opinion that the question and answer sessions are extremely important because when you hear these teachings, you contemplate their meaning, and questions arise in the mind. Those questions are a reflection of kind of doubt or misunderstanding of the teachings. And if you ask them and they're clearly addressed, then the response will clear away doubt and it will always remain in your awareness. It will stay in your mind stream. And so this has been my experience, and I, for this reason, hold the question and answer sessions very important indeed.
The late Tabo Pagat, the Tamsik Solo. Who Tangan took by the men, not new and so something. Chedang, you're not a gone. Take out a new mobile, gone, Tamarong, some Kuva.
So the text reads, when mind never strays from indeterminate non-conceptual truth, the unbroken samaya is a lamp lit in spiritual darkness. So in the beginning, we take on these various secret mantra samayas and also vows and commitments. Yet, without really maintaining the ultimate view, it is difficult to purely keep the samayas and the vows. For example, if we give rise to anger and then we engage in argument and fighting, the stain of anger remains in the mind. And then it isn't possible for the samaya to be maintained purely with that. On the other hand, if we are abiding in the view, in the ultimate nature of the mind, then anger arises, it is liberated on arising, and then there is no taint left in the mind stream. There's no stain, there's nothing that remains at all. Thus, abiding in the perfect view ensures the pure and perfect protection of the samaya and the various vow systems.
Saja Jimmy Thompson did the Mene Memek Tole Madonna Tamtik Nami Member Roomies Mene the same lang you move not to the pen of Tamsi Russell drawn to her or Tower and you move Sharma has a drawn to it, you move up Meneva. Memek but in a Kanyam by Yoma, same Namkata. Tole Madonna, the Mene, Tole Madonna, Mene, Tole Madonna, Mene, Tole Madonna, 동래 마다나 따와디 만에 매매가디 동디 따와 동래 마대나 되지 랑그 진실을 빠페는지 올래 진실을 봐 솔마냐 봐대 나도 와도 마서나 동래 마다와 되게 배나 올래 랑그 진실에 나도 와도 마셔와 동래 마다나 담택냐 member dream에 뭐바는 dream에 따와 되게 담택 따와 냐냐 요 말해 강령면 매제나 누구 봐 네 듣고 요 말해 지마타도 종종 올래 거요 못 밤에 봐서 셔도 그래
So again, we're looking at the line that reads, when mind never strays from indeterminate non-conceptual truth, the unbroken samaya is a lamp lit in spiritual darkness. If we wish to maintain the samayas of Mahamudra, we need to understand the meaning of these two terms in the verse. The first is non-abiding, and the second is non-objectifying. And I apologize that it doesn't appear as such in the translation. So, first of all, this term non-abiding means that when negative emotions and various thoughts arise, they are immediately liberated. Therefore, they do not abide in the mind stream at all. The second term, unobjectifying or unobjectified, means that having, when we abide in the ultimate nature, there is no dualistic view. Thus, there is no object of our perception. The thoughts that arise do not become an object of the mind. And then the text refers to not straying from the truth. This straying from the truth is when we lose mindful awareness. And even though the thoughts arise, we don't feel them, we don't recognize them. The mind has fallen under the power of the arising thought. And so, as we cultivate the ultimate view, we should abide in this, or we should remain in this non-abiding, non-objectifying truth, and not stray from that truth. When we practice in this way, we naturally maintain the unbroken samaya, and thus this is compared to a lamp in the darkness. And it's not as though we're making effort to maintain the samayas. Simply within the awareness of the natural state of the mind, the samayas are maintained. Thoughts arise, they are liberated on arising, and within that, there's no obscuration or stain or taint in the mind. Thus, the samayas are perfectly preserved.
This concludes CD number 7 of Ganges Mahamudra Practice Instruction with His Eminence Garchen Rinpoche.
이 담택이 꼬니 라만은 망보 쓴 거요래. 그 가시에 다 이게 줄 거예요. 같이 줄고요 말이야. 양나 담택라 따와게 담책 다 예나가 담책데 니요래 예나가 담책 배 망보래 그래 망보래 따라가 담책데 담책 탐지 담책냐만 이런 도요래 강리 고독부터 담책 삼hinge들이 따라 나오네 동담부 담책하고 생겨 오 내로 통화돼 마행바데 담책래 디 나음에다가 오 통화돼 하장대에다 대전서 대다 까마이나 고독부 담책대 무슨 삼hinge가 윤타도 요래 답변은 것은 나 탑지 통화들이 잠들감이 많은 과장님의 새끼데 semla tsewaare, semki tamchele chape tsewaare, tereng chabdi domani ngoto de te raade yore pena. Kaangi na dam chekdiyo, dam cha che, koncho osamla tak chabdi dipara sosol cha de, tasamena harde dipa cha, koncho osamla chabdi songi, sam hinjene zangyo yore. Sam hinjene zangyo teri ngono sanjela, uso tan rewa chakyo yore pena. 삼히게된 정말로 다라고 체 소리 담책더니 체는 호요래 담책 양만인데 라고 생각하다는 거 소리를 빼나 심진 담체라 라기 로마 콜 로마 라미 로마를 제와요래 로마게 라마가 제와 로마 펜치 담지 제와 저기 참제 제와 좀 마실 담책 차요 말에这个 때문에 참제 코로나로 담책 차 체로 빼나 담책 차서는 가리고 랑상 진식해 틀래 오 다다 고도로 담책 차서 마가 사초가 생기 담자외 결정에 야야 담자외 책 가리 요요 저랑에 꼰초가 좀 사초 생기 지와 체랍 담치는 뭐방데 담자외죠 디 담자들의 체 성하지 들이 정상 제를 대체선 산이 서만이랑 바도를 타파토게 사제를 제와 지게 삼hinge 되는 제공을 해. 셈 대진이 뭐 제와 사제를 요다 요 말이데. 들 돈이 제와 요다 hinge는 제와 되는 들 사제를 제와 체 넣어래. 사제 셈진이 바탕 되니 체 넣어래. 대신에 대 답책을 좀 참아 되니 고래. 대 일본 줘 고래.
So with regard to this term samaya, which is a Sanskrit term referring to the sacred bond, the bond between guru and disciple, the bond among disciples, the bond between deities and human beings, and so forth. With regard to this term samaya, much has been taught by gurus in the past. And some of these instructions on samaya have been translated to English, many others have not. There are said to be both root and branch samayas or commitments. With regard to the branch samayas, there are just countless numbers of them. But the root samaya really contains the essence of all of the branch samayas, and that root samaya has two classifications. The first of which is the conventional level, and the second is the ultimate level. On the conventional level, we maintain the root samaya when we maintain loving kindness and compassion in our hearts. On the ultimate level, we maintain the samaya when we abide in the nature of mind, in undistracted awareness of the natural state. By holding on to these two aspects, then, we will be maintaining purely all of the samayas and commitments. Now, in the beginning, when we are beginners, we learn about conventional bodhicitta. We take refuge and we hear the teachings on how all mother sentient beings, as innumerable as space, have been our mothers in the past. Yeah. And so in this way, we take the vow of refuge while at the same time giving rise to a loving kindness that pervades all of space and that reaches all sentient beings. It is in fact for their benefit that we receive the vow of refuge. So when we receive this refuge vow, we do so for the purpose of attaining liberation for their sake. Thus we are making a promise, a commitment. And likewise, in the refuge vow ceremony, we recite the 7-limb prayer. And every aspect of that 7-limb prayer, including offering and confession and so forth, is based on loving kindness and compassion. So from the very beginning, we are introduced to this conventional level of the Samaya. Now, the Samaya is like the string that holds a mala or a rosary together. If we lose the mind of love and compassion, it is though that string has been cut. And the Samaya then is broken. So when we consider Samaya, we should understand that it applies to all sentient beings. It applies to self and other. It applies between guru and disciple. It applies among disciples. If we lose the bond of love that we have with one another or with the guru, the Samaya has been broken. And what should we do when the Samaya has been violated? Through the power of mindful awareness, we must recognize the downfall and then give rise to regret, and through confession, purify it. So when we take the vow of refuge, we make a promise to never to abandon the 3 jewels of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha in all of our lives until enlightenment is attained. And when we understand the preciousness of the Samaya and the negative consequences of breaking it, we should give rise to a kind of cautiousness and even fear of breaking the Samaya. If, on the other hand, the Samaya is maintained purely, then in the intermediate state and in our future lives, we will continue to experience the benefit of having maintained it. The empty nature of mind, that is, the Buddha nature, is present in the minds of all sentient beings. However, what we lack is compassion. When we take on the Samayas, we pledge to maintain compassion. When we lose love, when we lose compassion, the Samayas are broken. And so, in this way, we should understand that both the conventional level and the ultimate level of the Samaya, if they are combined, encompass all of the many branch Samayas. Thus, we need to make this basis of love and compassion on the conventional level and the mindful awareness on the ultimate level stable.
also 지화단 낭바 제거요 전산이 시에요 다주 드랭 낭바 사제버 고를 쇼나 드랭 미존의 주 가래 말 봐 가래 톱송도 멋지 지용나 레 가래 답사래 상로 당고래 레 가래 답고 오 나말 매와들라 랑게 인다 녀들라 때와서 마도 인의 때와 매지 다 다른 남부 걸로 형들 중에 마 남파당에 샘진 탑이 인당 녀들 봐 제가 때와 공주들 당에 톱송들 있다면 당문이 탭이요 디 톱나 당문이 주는 거 사제베 때마그 네 생활 됐으나 티 요거다 그래 다 nom보 치보지 요거다 그래
So we speak about Buddhists and non-Buddhists, and if today you have entered the door of Buddhist teaching and practice, someone might ask you, so what did you get? What was the result of having entered the Buddhist path? What's different now that you have entered this? What kind of answer would you give? Think about it. The thing that
Oh,
according to the dispositions and likewise the mental capacities of sentient beings.
By holding on to these two aspects, then, we will be maintaining purely all of the samayas and commitments. Now, in the beginning, when we are beginners, we learn about conventional bodhicitta. We take refuge and we hear the teachings on how all mother sentient beings, as innumerable as space, have been our mothers in the past. Yeah. And so, in this way, we take the vow of refuge, while at the same time giving rise to a loving kindness that pervades all of space and that reaches all sentient beings. It is, in fact, for their benefit that we receive the vow of refuge. So, when we receive this refuge vow, we do so for the purpose of attaining liberation for their sake. Thus, we are making a promise, a commitment. And likewise, in the refuge vow ceremony, we recite the 7-limb prayer. And every aspect of that 7-limb prayer, including offering and confession and so forth, is based on loving kindness and compassion. So from the very beginning, we are introduced to this conventional level of the samaya. Now, the samaya is like the string that holds a mala or a rosary together. If we lose the mind of love and compassion, it is though that string has been cut. And the samaya then is broken. So when we consider samaya, we should understand that it applies to all sentient beings. It applies to self and other. It applies between guru and disciple. It applies among disciples. If we lose the bond of love that we have with one another or with the guru, the samaya has been broken. And what should we do when the samaya has been violated? Through the power of mindful awareness, we must recognize the downfall and then give rise to regret, and through confession, purify it. So when we take the vow of refuge, we make a promise to never to abandon the 3 jewels of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha in all of our lives until enlightenment is attained. And when we understand the preciousness of the samaya and the negative consequences of breaking it, we should give rise to a kind of cautiousness and even fear of breaking the samaya. If, on the other hand, the samaya is maintained purely, then in the intermediate state and in our future lives, we will continue to experience the benefit of having maintained it. The empty nature of mind, that is, the Buddha nature, is present in the minds of all sentient beings. However, what we lack is compassion. When we take on the samayas, we pledge to maintain compassion. When we lose love, when we lose compassion, the samayas are broken. And so, in this way, we should understand that both the conventional level and the ultimate level of the samaya, if they are combined, encompass all of the many branch samayas. Thus, we need to make this basis of love and compassion on the conventional level and the mindful awareness on the ultimate level stable.
Also, 지화단 낭바 제거요. 전산이 시켜요. 다주 드랭 낭바 사제에 고를 쇼나. 드랭 미존의 주 가리 말메바 가리 톱송데 멋지게 뒤용나. 랭 가리 답사래. 상호 당고래. 랭 가리 답고 오
in the minds of all beings. If the Dharmakaya is like space, then the Sambhogakaya, or the complete enjoyment body, is like a rainbow or like a cloud. It spontaneously arises out of space. And then the third of the three kayas, the Nirmanakaya, is like rainfall, a rainfall of loving kindness and compassion. So how this operates on the level of practice is as follows. From the natural state of the mind that is like space, thoughts arise. No, let me go back. When we abide in the natural state of the mind that is like space and we habituate that, we attain our own purpose, that is, the state of fully enlightened Buddhahood endowed with bliss. Together with that, we achieve the capacity to bring about benefit to all sentient beings. How is that state attained? It is attained through having held on to the very root essence, which is loving kindness and compassion. And having held on to it ceaselessly in an unbroken continuity. Then, from within that awareness, thoughts arise, and they are liberated on arising. This liberation of thoughts on arising is the Sambhogakaya. When thoughts are liberated in this way, their energy naturally manifests as loving kindness and compassion. And in this way, they are transformed into the Nirmanakaya, the actual material, physical emanation body of loving kindness and compassion.
인나 다다단디 사자집을 담색데 다틴 제베데 토바스 발라다리게 에시바다 산촉 생도 농보치 못저 사원다래 데다다 요다로 소마지가 기에 진짜 담색시 바데 동고지다로 답바 초고래 베데나지 샘동반이 되냐면 닝닝게데 고요래 샘동반이도 동보치가 사원다래 삼치지데 쳤다래 제 주마 제발요. 농보대 야가로다 제찬나. 이 저 사도 그지 요말 그 봐요 말이. 농보 야가 제찬나. 이 제베 주치 메바. 맨 카부다가 동보다 이 산축 세군 제베테. 내 갑당 타톡 탐피를 조지메라. 이 산제 용지 탐피다는 정보요래야. 레 다운 갑다. 내가 라면이 토리게 되와 다톡 산제게 공방다 인상시에와 내가 다톡 네와 탐지게 싸와돼 담책게 싸와돼 되다 샘 동반이다 인지 카마잖아 인지 카마잖아 내가 왜 선이 남도다 유모바 라서바게 누면 잡아 누터 말라 이거 누가 땅을 컨트롤한 거 말이야 지시오나 빼지 컨트롤만 담책 잡고 말봐 생각을 범놨더니라. 어서나. 돈이 니지니가 가만는 거 담색 잡히고 말이 텐데.
So with regard to the samaya that is maintained through the practice of Mahamudra, we need to now look at the fruition of that. Bodhicitta, or the Buddha nature, is like a seed that abides in the mind of beings. it is the nature of emptiness. It is always present. But right now we haven't realized the fruition of that. So it is on the basis of maintaining the samaya that the fruition can be realized. Again, what is the samaya? It is holding on to loving kindness and compassion. When we cultivate love and compassion, it is, we are maintaining the samaya, and it is as though we are watering the seed of emptiness, or Buddha nature that abides in the mind. The more we cultivate compassion, the more this sprout, the more this seed begins to take root and grow. When it has fully grown into a great tree with a thick trunk and many branches and flourishing leaves and fruits and flowers and so forth, we don't need to be so careful to water it regularly and to look after it so closely. But while it is growing, we really need to take care to maintain this sprout and this sapling. In a similar way, as we engage the practice of the samaya, maintaining love and compassion, we really need to take care not to allow it to decline. On the basis of maintaining the samaya in this way, both the temporary and ultimate fruitions will be achieved. The temporary fruition being that we will experience the happiness of the God and human realms. Let's see. So when we are never separated from emptiness and compassion, then there is no breach in the samaya. Whatever thoughts arise, they don't have the power to do any harm. They cannot destabilize our meditation. If anger arises, it is immediately liberated. And so on this ultimate level, this is how all of the samayas can be maintained purely. We should seek to maintain just this kind of unbroken commitment. The text continues, if you are free from all wishful thoughts and do not adhere to limiting views, all the teachings of the collected scriptures without exception will be realized. And I guess at this point in the text we've returned to my own translation. In any case, when there's no wishful thought in the mind, when there's no desire or hope, then we are free from fixation and the mind abides like space. Thus there is no obscuring factor in the mind at all. All phenomena of samsara and nirvana are clearly seen as they are. So the text refers to the realization of all the teachings of the collected scriptures without exception. There are said to be 84,000 aggregates of the Dharma teachings given by the Buddha. Yeah. But the very basis of all of them is this. If we liberate dualistic fixation on the thoughts that arise, that is the state of Buddhahood. Within this simple notion, all of the Buddha's teachings are encompassed. That is to say, if we maintain the non-dual union of emptiness and compassion, that is the view. And within that view are subsumed all of the Buddha's teachings.
동들이 요런 코를 쏘네 탈 동들이 야 말이 sak timbe drumeshi se ba yin so.
The text continues, if you exert yourself in this truth, you will be freed from the prison of samsara. If you cultivate even contemplation on this truth, all unawareness, negativities, and obscurations will be burnt away. Thus, it is known as the lamp of the teachings.
고반 남도 저거 남도 저밤이나 레마사 레마사는 같은데 양자시에로와 레마사는 레베메와 다트리로와 그 같은 것도 제차리 들려는데
So again, the text refers to being freed from the prison of samsara, and I already gave an introduction to this yesterday. When we give rise to thoughts and we fixate on them as real, we accumulate karma, and on the basis of that, the fruition that is suffering in cyclic existence is experienced. On the other hand, if we liberate thoughts on arising, karma is not accumulated, and the fruit of suffering in samsara is not realized.
이래요. 저도시요. 코르자와네 뉴모바 조그레 코 서우다 충충 뉴모바 조그레 뉴모바데 랑사나 특로레 서우 특발 요메 제와다 그랬더니 코 서우 뉴모바 썩잖아. 근데 코바나 이미가 동마 했지.
The root of samsara is the 6 different kinds of negative emotions. When we cultivate awareness of mind's nature, those negative emotions are burned away the moment they appear. This is like taking a seed and putting it in a flame. Once it's burnt, it will not take root. And so in this way, we can see that all of samsara, or cyclic existence, is empty in nature and without any basis. For this reason, then, this instruction is known as the lamp of the teachings. Those foolish people who are disinterested in this truth and are continually carried off and wasted by the great river of cyclic existence. How sad that they endure the unbearable suffering of evil rebirths.
차당 따와도 쪼진 좀더 손진이라서 봐제네. 근데 그것도 다 그요 말이지. 큐가 사람이 손으로 저기 요래지. 큐를 뒤 차당을 똑바로 좀 요래지.
Those foolish people who are disinterested in this truth are continually carried off and wasted by the great river of cyclic existence. Rinpoche is saying here that who is it who has attained liberation from suffering and samsara? No one. On the basis of attachment and aversion, we give rise to samsaric sufferings. Yet also on the basis of attachment and aversion, we give rise to various spiritual beliefs and modes of practice and tenet systems and so forth. So we can also reinforce our habits of attachment and aversion under the guise of Dharma. This obviously will not lead to liberation.
샘 차당을 똑바로 말하나 미송수지 등해지 용고당 고지 말해지 미송수지 등해 용당 고지다 사원도 요는 요거 여자 요 말해지 차당도 적은 되나요?
So whoever fixates on attachment and aversion in their minds will definitely experience the sufferings of the three lower realms.
동화 타제를 타는 동화 탄도 라만 케바데 살합 쪽에 란신 좋아져서 라만 케바제라 오샘 차당도 잡아 탑도 시바 란 년행 차당도 잡아 미치이나 되게 진짜 차당을 좋아져 라고 특별히 해 지금 케바제레.
The text continues, if you want to be freed from suffering, follow a masterful guru. By imbibing his blessing, your mind will be liberated. So the text refers to a masterful guru. What is that? The guru is the one who shows the method to liberate your own mind from attachment and aversion.
차당당 새로운 아셈 차당당 자르총을 예비신이 되게 소리 위에 삼형제들 요래죠. 고라. 이 삼형제들 때문에 야들 대바도 못 받아요나. 그게 생부 유인데 찍바인데 이 삼형제들이 차우나. 로마 삼실로 소리 차당 외와 차 접절에 됐나. 선합적도 나한테 좋아져들 강도 좋아 차당 많이 차오래지.
So this spiritual friend who teaches us how to liberate our minds from attachment and aversion. On one level, if he or she appears as a human being, is the guru. But on a deeper level, the real spiritual friend that liberates our minds from attachment and aversion is loving kindness and compassion. If we give rise to faith and devotion to the guru in this way, then his or her blessings of love and compassion enter our mind stream. In the mind of the guru, there is no attachment and aversion. There is no, favoritism. The Lama views all of the disciples equally. And thus, by receiving his or her blessing, we too can liberate our minds from attachment and aversion.
레자티는 대동이시 잘 탑당선합 시랍선합 연반인 적소 강인에 따다당소 뉴모바 코바 마방바 산제살을 접어 타원을 빼나 거기서 따와나 그러나 그 펑캉 김치 담치 상하가 따와 하고네 대낭이 타말바 많이 봐 내는 게 냠슬랑나 되니 뉴모바 이시선 차탑제 해서
The text continues, If you serve the action consort, the wisdom that is the union of bliss and emptiness will arise. Thus, through the blessings of method and wisdom, enter into meditative absorption. So, this refers to the secret mantra methods of attaining the state of Buddhahood while not abandoning cyclic existence. This doesn't mean that we cultivate negative emotions, but that while remaining in cyclic existence, we practice the methods to liberate negative emotions. First, we must become established in the pure perception of the body-mind continuum. And then, whatever practices we engage, we do so with an extraordinary mindset. Through engaging practice in this way, we can transform negative emotions into primordial awareness wisdom.
이 탑당 시랍선 합 돈벌이 교수님들 빼나 다다당 소나 단지 딩카나 빼나디 소 플라를 약간 염이에 딩카나 포도 뭐 나봐 이 차데 대 뭐만 있었는데 바데 어래 생구 이제 찍바래 내가 저거 나와라 이 나와래 맞아도 접해 탑 능지치보다 시랍 동반이 빼나 다다 돈이 더 능지 송들이와 지랑이 시고래 아니 이서 맞춰봐 내가 저거 나와라 빼나 여기 민망이야 이 대라 다 선절하게도 사여면 선절하면 빼나 단 콜로도 말라서 봐 리게 담จะ 살아 곰 지강네 리게 담จะ 살아 곰 그때 semting에 되다 말아봐 제가 탑을 원래 편수 탑시 사바다 hinji 돈이 이제 카마더로 나니 되잖아.
So, in this worldly realm, human beings manifest in male and female forms. Likewise, the deities in the pure realms manifest as father and mother consorts. If we give rise to dualistic fixation, they appear as separate and distinctive. Yet, from the perspective of the ultimate nature, of the actual basis, there is no distinction in terms of the mind itself. We speak of the non-dual union of method and wisdom. What is the method? It is great compassion. Wisdom is the nature of emptiness. It is important that we understand this essence. When we establish ourselves through meditation in the non-dual union of method and wisdom, then the blessings of the Father and Mother deities enter our mind stream, and we can engage in practice like that of Chakrasambhara, for example, and authentically receive the deity's blessing. So, from within this direct experience of the deity's blessing, we recognize that the mind of the Father and Mother consorts in union is the same. It is of one singular essence, and there is no separation between self and other. This is why we practice the non-dual union of emptiness and compassion.
폭한점피 탑게 이전에 답바 야와를 나예면 선발라서가 선발선한테 답을 찾아라 유네요. 내가 티는 자와가는 되니다다. 삼행제에 따라서 사축 셈지와 사마다 행제 자와 뭐 룰란데 봐도 들리리잖아. 근데 대행을 빼나 달라지네. 가와다 대와다 체당 소나로 탑게 달라지는 경우요래.
So in this regard, when we engage in the training of the 6 yogas of Naropa, for example, it is on the basis of such training that the Vajra body can be realized.
our physical body, our subtle body is composed of, our gross and subtle bodies are comprised of the channels and wind energies and so forth. And from the very basis, this body-mind continuum is pure. Contained in this body and mind are the Buddhas of the 5 families and their consorts. Likewise, within this body and mind, the 8 bodhisattvas and their consorts are naturally and spontaneously manifest. If we abide in mindful awareness of the natural state of mind, and if we are endowed with loving kindness and compassion, then we will be able to use this as the basis of engaging in the higher yogic trainings. We speak of bodhicitta, or the mind of enlightenment, that is the nature of love and compassion. Yet at the same time, it has a physical basis in the body, and that is known as tigle, or seed essence. And this seed essence is the very basis from which bliss, happiness, health and longevity, merit, and so forth arise. And so when we engage in the various yogic trainings, we cause this bodhicitta to increase, and together with it, all of its qualities increase.
This concludes CD number 8 of Ganges Mahamudra Practice Instruction with His Eminence Garchen Rinpoche.